Good evening everyone. Welcome to Bajirao Ias Academy UPSC 2025 question and answers analysis session. So you all knew that we have been discussing the solutions or the answers for 2025 mains examination general studies paper 2 paper 1. Right, so therefore in this context we have a few more questions, and let's understand the structuring, presentation, and what content should be included in such type of an answer and how to write these answers. So let's understand all these important aspects about the mains answer writing. So it's like a workshop for learning answer writing, right? So what are the important topics that have to be covered for the mains preparation? Because you can understand the important themes. There are certain themes that UPSC every year repeat those themes, whether it is for the prelims exam or mains exam. So therefore we have to understand those important themes. Now if you have a specific content for each of these themes, so you can handle any question which is asked by the UPSC. For example, this year in general studies paper 1 they have asked a question about the non-farm primary activities. Now you should know what are these non-farm primary activities and how these non-farm primary activities are related to the physiographic features of India. Now in India we have certain physiographic features. For example, we have desert, we have the coastal areas, we have mountains, and we have rainforests, right? We also have Himalayas. So there are certain physiographic features, and how these physiographic features actually determine or describe the non-farm primary activities in those particular areas, right? So in this answer, first what you have to do, you have to briefly introduce what are the non-farm primary activities, and then you have to write so how these non-farm primary activities are related to the physiographic features in India. And then when you are discussing this, you need to provide suitable examples for these questions as well, right? So as I've already told you in the introduction itself, first you have to briefly introduce or define what exactly are non-farm primary activities. Define non-farm primary activities. And then in the introduction itself, briefly you could mention the significance of the non-farm primary activities, right? So and then you can also mention the distribution and how the distribution of physiographic features or the physiographic features influences these non-farm primary activities in the introduction very briefly. But even if you define non-farm primary activity in the introduction, so that would be sufficient. And then in the body part of the answer, what you have to do now, for example, in the body part of the answer, you need to describe how the non-farm primary activities are related to the physiographic features of India. For example, in India, fishing, forestry, animal husbandry, mining, so they are being called as non-farm primary activities. Now you have to mention, for example, here fishing. Now fishing is a non-farm primary activity. Now India has a huge coastal area, right? So this coastal area have the relation or it influences this particular non-farm primary activity, because we have physiographic features like coastlines, mountains, plateaus, deserts, and river valleys, right? So you have to explain this with the relevant examples as well. Now ultimately when you write a conclusion for this answer, so you have to summarize the connection between the non-farm activities and the physiology. So ultimately you need to emphasize on the importance of this for the rural livelihoods, income security, regional development, and also highlight the need for the region specific sustainable practices that have to be adopted, right? So this is the detailed framework of how you should write the answer, but this question itself is very easy to structure it. You can divide this question into multiple parts and you can address each of these parts. So as I've already told you what you have to do in the introduction, So in the introduction, you just briefly describe what is non-farm primary activity, right? So even though if it is a non-farm primary activity, we can say that this is an economic activity. This is an economic activity. And the non-farm primary activities, they are primarily deals with the extraction or collection of the existing natural resources. And this non-farm primary activities is also completely different from the, not completely, but it is also different from the agriculture, right? So non-farm primary activity is different from the agriculture, and non-farm primary activity deals with the collection or extraction of the resources. Now in the beginning, I have told you that there are certain activities which are classified as a non-farm primary activities. For example, you can say that fishing is a non-farm primary activity. Mining is also a non-farm primary activity, and even forestry for that matter. Even forestry for that matter is also a non-farm primary activities, right? So therefore, in fact, the distribution of the resources, because non-farm primary activity primarily deals with the extraction or collection of the resources, and the resources are also distributed and across, they are distributed across the country. And in fact, the distribution and nature of the non-farm primary activities, so they are closely linked to the physiographic regions of a country. For example, mountains, rivers, plateaus, coastal areas, deserts, right? So these are the physiographic features of India, and the physiographic features of our country determine the non-farm primary activities as well, right? So let's understand what exactly are the non-farm primary activities, right? So in the beginning, I've told you that the non-farm primary activities deals with extraction or collection of resources, right? So therefore, they are the resource based activities, and in fact they are not related to farming or agriculture. They are not related to farming or agriculture. They are the resource based economic activities. And in fact, the non-farm primary activities including fishing and aquaculture, yes. So we have a huge coast, and the coastal areas, usually not just the coastal areas, even the rivers also, right? So rivers and coastal areas, so they determine the fishing and the aquaculture. States like Andhra Pradesh are being the largest producer of fish. So apart from that, the forestry and collection of forest produce, for example, in the northeastern part of India. So in the northeastern part of India and Western Ghats and areas like Andaman and Nicobar Islands, so the primary activity, non-farm primary activity is forestry and collection of the forest produce and selling the forest produce in the local markets. And apart from that, animal husbandry, pastoralism, in particularly in states like Rajasthan. In states like Rajasthan, what they do, pastoralism, animal husbandry, because those are the areas where we can find the desert landform, or physiographic region is a desert. So therefore, it is not possible to practice farming or agriculture, and inadequate water availability also. So therefore, all these factors have led to the animal husbandry or pastoralism. For example, in central part of India, for example, states like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, so in those states, mining is an important non-farming economic activity, right? So this can also be classified as a non-farm primary activity. And gathering minor forest produce is also classified as a non-farm primary activity. So I hope you understood what exactly a non-farm primary activity. Now we need to understand the primary sector of the economy, secondary sector of the economy, and the tertiary sector of the economy, right? So these are the two important sectors. Now primary sector deals with the agriculture, right? So primary sector deals with the agriculture and non-farm primary activity. So what are the sectors which are part of the primary sector but they are not form part of the agriculture? So they are being called as non-farm primary activities. And the secondary sector, it deals with the industry and the manufacturing, right? So it deals with industry and the manufacturing sector. And I hope all of you are aware about the tertiary sector. So the tertiary sector deals with the service sector, right? So it deals with the service sector. So the primary sector, secondary sector, and the tertiary sector. Now within the primary sector we have agriculture, and apart from agriculture there are certain activities which are known as non-farm primary activities. They are being called as fishing, forestry, animal husbandry. So they are called as non-farm primary activities, right? So I hope it is clear for you. Now coming back to the second part of the question. So it says that how the physiographic features are related to the non-farm primary activities. Non-farm primary activities. Now initially I have explained to you that if we talk about India, so in India itself we have a different physiography or physiographic zones. For example, we have a huge desert in Gujarat and Rajasthan areas, and we have a plateau at the central Indian region. So we have a alluvial plains as well, which are being formed by Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra rivers. And we have a huge coastal plains. We also have the coastal plains, and we have the island nations, and we have the mountains, both Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, and the Himalayan mountains as well, and thick forests in the northeastern part of India and the Western Ghats as well. So these are the physiographic areas of India, and how these physiographic features actually describe the non-farm primary activities is the main question here. Now firstly, we have to understand the fishing and aquaculture and how they are going to determine this. Now one thing that we should understand, that India's total coastal area is 7,516 kilometers, right? So we have 7,516 kilometers of a huge coastline. So don't you think that such a huge coastline will determine the fishing activity and aquaculture in India? Obviously true. And within this, certain states like Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal and Tamil Nadu, they are one of the largest producers of fish. And similarly, we have rivers like Ganga, Brahmaputra, Indus River and Godavari River, Krishna River. So they also form the deltas, and in fact these deltas are fertile. So therefore farmers would cultivate rice, extensive cultivation of rice in these deltas. And in fact the deltas are also known for the inland fishing. Right? So therefore not just the coastal area but also rivers are one of the primary factor which have been influencing the non-farm primary activities in India. Now I would give you one example how the non-farm primary activities are related to the rivers. For example, hilsa fishing in the Hooghly Basin. Right, so in the Hooghly Basin in West Bengal, a fish called hilsa fish, which is very famous in West Bengal and Odisha, and this hilsa fish farming is being done. And secondly, shrimp cultivation in states like Andhra Pradesh. And in fact, Andhra Pradesh is known for the shrimp cultivation. It is one of the largest exporter of shrimp. And in fact, the coastal Matsyakaras community in Andhra Pradesh and Mukkuvas in Tamil Nadu. Right? So in Andhra Pradesh, the fishermen communities are being called as the Matsyakara community, and in Tamil Nadu they are being called as Mukkuvas. So they are getting livelihood from the coastline and also the rivers as well through aquaculture and fishing. So therefore it has been providing a livelihood. However, if we talk about the data of fish production in India, so India produced around 14.16 million metric tons of fish in 2022-23. So therefore India ranked third globally. So third largest fish producer globally, India. So this is because of the huge coast we have along with the rivers. Right, so this is how the one physiographic feature has been influencing the livelihoods of the coastal communities. Now next side heading, forested mountains and plateaus and how they are going to help generate livelihoods for the people, particularly the non-farm primary activity. Because the forested mountains, when I say forested mountains, we have the Western Ghats, and dense forests in northeastern part of India, Himalayas, and the Eastern Ghats, right? So these are the areas where we can find thick and dense forests. Right, so the thick and dense forests, so this is one physiographic feature, and this physiographic feature is known for providing timber, medicinal plants, and non-forest non-timber forest product collection. Now what exactly is a non-forest timber collection? For example, the tendu leaves, collection of honey, collection of tamarind, collection of the medicinal plants. So all these things are known as non-timber forest produce. So non-timber forest produce is collected along with the medicinal plants and also the timber collection as well. So therefore it also generates livelihood opportunities for the people. Now there is one example as well for this. For example, take sal from forest from Madhya Pradesh, collection of wild honey, medicinal plants by tribal communities in Himalayas and Northeast. So remember that when you write an answer, when you give a relevant point in the answer, it is always suggested that you include one example or relevant data so that you can score a good marks in your answer. Now in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, minor forest produce contributes to around 20 to 30% of the local tribal incomes. So therefore it has been sustaining the livelihoods of the local people, and that is very important, right? So let's understand the plateaus and mineral rich regions. Now in this context we'll be understanding the mining and quarrying, because as I've already told you that mining and quarrying is also another important non-farm primary activity, right? So mining and quarrying is also non-farm primary activity. For example, Indian plateaus like the Chota Nagpur plateau, so they are being rich in minerals such as coal, such as iron ore and mica, right? So this Chota Nagpur plateau is located in the central part of India, and it is a mineral resource rich area, and from this area coal, iron ore, mica and other important minerals are extracted. So therefore this is also an important non-farm primary activity or major activity. Now one example is Dhanbad and Singhbum in Jharkhand, And this Dhanbad and Singhbum in Jharkhand, they are known for coal mining. Bellary in Karnataka is known for iron ore extraction. And these mining towns also support lakhs of workers and provide raw materials like steel, energy, and other industries. Right? And apart from that, another physiographic area is arid and semi-arid regions. Now, when I say arid and semi-arid regions, we all knew that we have deserts. One is Thar Desert, which is expanded in Gujarat and Rajasthan. And in these areas, animal husbandry is very popular. Animal husbandry is very popular. And pastoralism is also practiced, right? Because you cannot practice agriculture or farming in these areas. And there is also scarce presence of industry. Anyway, industry is the secondary activity. So therefore, if agriculture is not possible, then the people started adopting the non-farm primary activities such as animal husbandry and pastoralism, right? Because they have herd of goats, buffaloes, camels, and sheep, right? So this is also a non-farm primary activity. And camel trade is very popular along with sheep wool industries, because these sheep wool industries, they support the livelihoods of the local farmers among the Raika and Rabari communities. Raika and Rabari communities. So among the Raika and Rabari communities of Rajasthan, so this camel trade and sheep wool industry, so they are very famous. And another physiographic feature is riverine and lake regions. So for inland fishing and gathering, because we have a huge river valleys, and we also have the lake systems. For example, in states like Assam, West Bengal, Odisha, so they are known as centers for inland fishing, and they are also very well known for collection of edible aquatic plants. Collection of edible aquatic plants, right? So this is also providing livelihood for the people, because it is also known as non-farm primary activity. And in fact, the Kai Bartha fishing community, in a state of Assam. So the Kai Bartha fishing community in the state of Assam has long been associated with the pisciculture in riverine ecosystem, right? So this is being associated with the pisciculture in the riverine ecosystem. So we have discussed, we have understood that different physiographic areas and how they are being related to the non-farm primary activities in India. So let's understand the desert and semi-arid areas. And the desert and semi-arid areas in India, they are known for the salt production. So for example, within Gujarat and Rajasthan, for example, this is the Rann of Kutch area. So this Rann of Kutch area is known for the salt production, and this is a significant and a very important economic activity. So therefore, what we have been doing, we have been leveraging the natural salt flats and arid climate in this area. Now in fact, all the details have been given in the tabular format, different states and their physiographic features, and how the physiographic features have been influencing the non-farm primary activities in those respective areas. For example, in states like Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, so mining is a most important activity, because these areas have the Chota Nagpur Plateau, and Chota Nagpur Plateau is a mineral resource rich area, and this area is known for mining, right? So this is the major source of income or employment for the people who are living in those areas. Now if we talk about the Kerala and Tamil Nadu, they also have the physiographic area, because both Kerala and Tamil Nadu are known for the coastal area that they have. So therefore this area is famous for the coastal fishing. So therefore, they are also getting the livelihood from the coastal fishing and aquaculture. So Rajasthan is known for the desert and arid climate. So therefore, animal husbandry is very famous, and this is vital for the desert economy. However, in states like Assam and West Bengal, inland fishing is very famous and community-based high share in the income and employment generation. So in Gujarat, Kutch area, salt production is very famous, and this is unique to the region. MP and Himachal Pradesh and the northeastern part of India, forestry. So around 20 to 30% of the tribal areas, right? Because in Himachal Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh and northeastern part of India, majority of the people are tribal people, so they dependent on the forests, right? So I hope you have understood how to answer this question. So you should have to write a brief conclusion as well in the answer. So it is very clear from our analysis that the physiographic features of our country are related to the livelihood, right? So they are related to the non-farm primary activities, because these non-farm primary activities are generating sustained livelihood for the people. Because it is being said that around 45 to 50% of India's population are dependent on the primary sector, whether it is agriculture or allied activities. So therefore, geography plays a very important role in generating the livelihoods of the people. So this is how you have to write the conclusion. So ultimately, the answer should be structured. Make sure you have intro and conclusion, and they are relevant to the question demand. And then they divide the theme of the question into a number of parts, and address each part with the proper heading and subheading, and also mention the relevant examples as well, right? So that's all in this lecture, and thank you.